What's going on, everyone? So, I went and saw Bad Boys for Life. Now, this is the third installment of the Bad Boys, what is now a trilogy. So, that's kind of cool. I didn't expect that this would turn into a trilogy. The first one literally came out 25 years ago, came out in 95. Is directed by Michael Bay, and it did really well. And then they made a second one in the early 2000s, and then boom, here we go, 2020, and we have a third one. And let me just say that I was a little bit skeptical of this because it's like, man, it's been 25 years and Michael Bay didn't direct this. And I'm just going to start off by saying this right now. It was incredible. Now, it was far from flawless, but for these kind of movies, it's a cop dynamic duo, and I really enjoy these. I'm a huge Lethal Weapon fan, and then boom, Bad Boys for Life is right there next to it. The chemistry between the two cops is what like really captivates me, and these guys, they take on this big case or whatever. Sometimes it seems impossible or whatever, and it's just completely dangerous. And man, it just excites me. So, and the chemistry between Martin Lawrence and Will Smith is incredible. I mean, they nail it from the get go, from the very first movie and all the way to this movie. In fact, that's literally going to be my biggest complaint. I'm starting this review off with this. My biggest complaint of this third installment is literally it's not enough of the dynamic duo. And what I mean by that is like this movie focuses more on Will Smith. And if you've seen the trailer, the loose plot point is somebody's after Will, and or his character in the movie is Mike Lowry. So that's kind of the loose plot point of the film, but. So with that kind of reason alone, it kind of just stretches things out to where it's like you don't always see them together. And without going into further details on why, I mean, in the movie explains why. But for me, that's the reason I watch these movies is literally to see their interaction. And they also pulled like an Expendables 3, in my opinion. Sylvester Stallone made the Expendable movies, and you have all these quote unquote has-beens. And then in the third one, it's the first two. Well, the first one's really good. The second one's just under par. But then the third one was good too. But they brought in this like, the next gen kind of mentality, and I don't fully hate it. But at the same time, I don't feel like this Bad Boy franchise needs it, especially like the first one back after so long. Like uh, there may or may not already be rumors of the Bad Boys 4 moving forward, and so it's just kind of like, I just feel like you didn't need their assistance or whatever, because if you watch the first two films, there's other people that help them out, and this one focuses more on kind of the next gen aspect of it. So I could have done without that personally. It didn't make or break the film. In my opinion, I liked some of the characters. Vanessa Hudgens is one of them, and I'm gonna screw up Paola Nunez. She's also in it, and I mean they all do a phenomenal job. But it was just kind of like I said, hit or miss. The plot point itself was a bit of a stretch for me. It's just like they pulled something out of thin air and just try to make a story around it. With these movies, though, I'd never get caught up too much in the story just because it's an action cop movie, and I'm not really fully invested in the story. I'm there to see the dynamic or the chemistry between these guys, and just to see them solve cases and overcome these crazy things, and obviously to see some action shots, some bullets flying, some explosions happening, some car chases, like all that is in this movie. It's incredible. If you've seen the trailer too, there may or may not be a helicopter or two. So all that's really awesome. I do want to say though, if you haven't seen the first two films, touching a little bit on that is you can still appreciate this film. But I will say this is kind of going in some of the Easter eggs. Is you're gonna miss some of the already developed story. A returning cast member outside of Martin Lawrence's family is a person named Reggie. Now, if you haven't seen Bad Boys 2, I'm sure you can YouTube the clip Reggie, Bad Boys 2 Reggie, somewhere online. I do think it's worth watching this film. In that movie, he's like a 15-year-old kid. He makes a very small cameo in this film. I'm not going to explain any more on that. Another huge cameo is the one and only Michael Bay. So he directed the first two films. And even though he didn't direct this film was directed by, I think their names are Adil and Bilall. I'm probably butchered their names. I'm sorry. I'm like a substitute teacher when it comes to names. But uh, so Michael Bay makes a cameo in this film, and even though, well, I don't want to say what scene he's in because it will reveal a plot point, and so I will say even though like there's a little bit of attention to it, I do think some people might not recognize him and could miss it. So I would at least Google a picture of Michael Bay if you're at least interested in that, because when he came on screen, I was like, dude, that's him. It's pretty cool. So really appreciated that. And lastly is just the chemistry between, I want to talk about the captain, and because Pantoliano, here we are with names again, he comes back and he's the captain, and they do a phenomenal job. He's a great actor, and they mostly interacted with Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, and like the reason he feels kind of like this father figure to them and that kind of stuff is really brought up between the first two films. So I will say you won't fully appreciate the relationship between the captain and Martin Lawrence and Will Smith in this film if you haven't seen the first two, but it's still worthwhile to where you'd appreciate it. Another little quick or Easter egg that they threw out there, they don't really elaborate on it, so this doesn't ruin anything, is they bring up Sid. Now, again, that's pulling from the second movie, in which Martin Lawrence, his sister is Sid, played by Gabrielle Union, and she's a big plot point of that film. And Will Smith has, some connections with her. Sorry, has some connections with her, and so yeah, that's a very quick spoken uh, spot of the film. So it's not going to ruin anything with that, but that's to elaborate a little bit if you haven't seen the second film, if you hear this whole relationship with Sid thing. Now, overall, I do want to talk about, I guess, the film. Like I said, the plot points weren't great for me. I mean, it was an okay story, but it was a huge stretch for me. It's just like, it seems more random than anything, especially, that it's 25 years later and that kind of stuff. And it just didn't seem as big as a threat, as like the first two films. Like the first film was like a heroin bust, basically. The second film was ecstasy, so, still involved in drug. This one has nothing to do with either of those kind of stuff. So, not that it needs to still like, I give them props for like thinking outside the box. I just feel like they missed the mark a little bit. But outside of that, the film is just barely over 2 hours. not 2 minutes. It's a very quick film. Well, credits done. It's just barely over 2 hours. I think it's like 2 hours and like 2 minutes though. And when the camera, so there's a quick after credit scene, but it's immediate. So maybe it's not even after credit scene. Maybe it's the final piece of the movie. To me, I consider it an after credit scene because it's completely different scenery, setting, and everything. So, or you can look at it as there's two endings. So make sure you stick around to when you finally see the credits start scrolling. When you see that, feel free to leave, or you can stay through it all and just appreciate everybody's names who helped bring this movie to you. Because like I said, I already talk about it, Bad Boys 4, because this movie did such a great job. I really enjoyed it. It didn't feel like a long movie at all. I laughed a ton. I wish we had more Will Smith and Martin Lawrence on the screen together, because they are what made this movie. They've made this franchise, and I absolutely love it. So highly recommend it. Go check it out. And if you've seen it, let me know what you think in the comments below. Actually, rate them 1, 2, and 3. I'm not going to do that because I don't have to. I'm just asking to see what you do. Maybe if you comment your rating of which ones you like the best in order, maybe I'll comment on mine. So, and if you like this video, be sure to hit like, and like always, be sure to hit the subscribe button. That way you're notified for future movie reviews. Thank you guys so much, and until next time.